I was rinsing off breakfast dishes when my phone buzzed with a message from my sister. Savannah Hartley Rhodes. Don't forget. Mama's Magnolia Shore kickoff is this Saturday at 2. Kids can swim before the food starts. For a moment, I just stared at the screen. I had not been invited to anything at my mother's beach house in months. Lately, every family gathering had a way of finding me last, if at all. Maisie peeked over my arm, her 9-year-old voice bright. "Mama, did Aunt Sav send something she did?" I said, fighting back the familiar pinch of hesitation. "Looks like Grandma's having her summer party this weekend." Jonah, 7 and already in his dinosaur pajamas for the day, nearly tripped running into the kitchen. "Are we going? I packed my goggles last time just in case." His excitement made the choice for me. I typed back, "We'll be there." Minutes later, another message popped up. "Savannah good. Just be on time." Mama invited half the neighborhood. There it was the edge she never bothered to sand down. A reminder that Rowan Hartley, single mother, software engineer who dressed too simply and spoke too plainly, should be grateful for whatever space the family decided to give her. Still, I forced lightness into my voice. "Okay, you two. If we're going on Saturday, swimsuits need to be clean and ready." Maisie squealed and raced down the hall. Jonah wrapped his arms around my waist with the fierce faith only a child has. "It's gonna be fun, Mama. I just know it." I held him for an extra breath. "I hope so. Baby." What I did not say, what I never said to them, was that every time I walked into one of my mother's events, I felt like I was stepping back into a role she had written for me long before I was grown. The quiet daughter, the divorced disappointment, the one who should stay grateful and stay small. But for them, for my children, I would step into that house again. If you have ever carried your kids into a place where you were not sure you were wanted, you know that feeling. You know that tightening in your chest. You can keep listening if this hits somewhere familiar, because what happened next changed everything I knew about my family and about myself. Saturday was coming, and so was the reckoning. The heat settled thick on Magnolia Shore that Saturday, but my kids were buzzing too hard to notice. Maisie kept tapping her flip-flops together in the back seat, and Jonah counted every mailbox as we drove down the narrow coastal road. When we pulled up near my mother's beach house, the street was already lined with cars. Voices floated through the open gate, women laughing, the pop of a cooler, kids splashing. My stomach tightened, but I forced a smile as I unbuckled Jonah. "Stay close to me until we find your grandmother," I said. "We will," Maisie promised, already slipping her towel over her shoulder. The moment we stepped inside the gate, heads turned, neighbors, church ladies, people my mother adored impressing. I caught sight of Savannah near the barbecue pit, talking animatedly to 2 women from her book club. She saw me and hesitated, her expression flickering before she put on her bright smile. "Rowan, you made it," she said. Good. Mama wanted everything to look perfect. It was meant as casual. It landed as a reminder. Before I could answer, another voice cut through the chatter. "Rowan." My mother stood near the pool, her sun hat tilted back, a glass of sweet tea in hand. Her posture stiffened. "Why are you here?" Maisie froze beside me. Jonah slipped his hand into mine. "You invited us," I said. "Savannah sent the message. Mistakenly." My mother's voice carried across the pool deck. Conversations stalled. "The message was meant for your sister." Savannah looked away, suddenly invested in rearranging a bowl of chips. I kept my voice even. "We're already here." "Mama." The kids were excited. My mother's gaze snapped to Maisie, who had wandered to the pool steps and dipped one foot into the water. "Maisie Hartley, get out of that pool right now," she barked. Maisie jerked back, startled. I was just..." My mother lifted a hand sharply. "Out." I stepped forward. "Mama, she is not hurting anything. She just wants to swim." "She can swim at a public pool," my mother snapped. "With children from homes like yours." The silence hit like a physical blow. People stared at us, some uncomfortable, most avoiding eye contact. My mother's closest friend, a woman named Carolyn who taught Sunday school with her, whispered something behind her hand. Jonah's grip tightened painfully around my fingers. "Mama," he whispered. "Did we do something wrong?" "You did nothing wrong," I said, my voice shaking. My mother looked at me with that brittle, judgmental calm she had perfected all my life. "This gathering is for families who made respectable choices. I will not have confusion about who belongs here." Maisie stood shivering beside me now, water dripping from her ankle. Her eyes glistened as she whispered, "I am sorry." "Grandma." My chest cracked open. "You have nothing to apologize for," I said, wrapping her in her towel. Savannah shifted uncomfortably. "Mama, maybe this is too much," she murmured, voice low. My mother did not even glance at her. If Rowan cannot understand boundaries, that is her issue. But not today. Not here. Colt, my younger brother, lounged in a chair nearby, staring hard at his phone. I saw his jaw clench, but he said nothing. People watched us like we were a scene they should not interrupt. I swallowed, lifted my chin, and gathered both kids close. "Maisie, Jonah, we're leaving." Jonah's voice cracked. "But I wanted to see the beach." "I know, sweetheart." We started for the gate. My mother followed a step behind us, her voice low but sharp enough to slice. "Do not come back here. Rowan, I am finished pretending your life choices have not embarrassed this family." I did not look back. I held my children's hands and walked them out, the sound of the restarted party rising behind us as if the three of us had never been there at all. The car was quiet except for Jonah's soft sniffling in the back seat. He tried to hide it, rubbing his face against his towel, but I saw the shaking in his small shoulders through the rearview mirror. Maisie sat rigid beside him, staring down at her knees. Her damp hair clung to her cheeks. "After a few minutes," she whispered, "Mama, Grandma really didn't want us there, did she?" My throat tightened. She was wrong. "Maisie, she should never have spoken to you that way." But she meant it. Maisie's voice cracked. She said, "We belong somewhere else." Jonah looked up then, eyes red. Is it because Daddy is gone that hit harder than anything my mother said? I gripped the steering wheel until my fingers ached. "No," I said firmly. "It has nothing to do with your father. It has nothing to do with either of you." Jonah wiped his face. "Then why did she talk to us like we were bad?" "She talked to me like that," I said quietly. "And you got caught in it." Maisie leaned forward. "But you didn't even do anything." There wasn't an answer that would make sense to a 9-year-old. So I breathed slowly, trying to steady my voice. Sometimes grown-ups say hurtful things when they care more about what people think than what's actually right. Jonah murmured, "Grandma cares about those church ladies more than us." Maisie reached for his hand. "We're not bad kids. Jonah, Grandma she gets mean sometimes." Her words were too old for her age, too knowing. When we reached the public beach, I parked and turned around. "Do you want to go home instead?" Maisie shook her head. "No." Jonah wanted to see the ocean. Jonah nodded. "Can we stay a little? Please." So we walked to the shoreline. They ran into the water and splashed each other, trying to shake off what had happened. I sat on the sand, watching their small forms bob in the waves. Maisie laughed once, a short, exhausted sound, but it was something. After a while, she came back and sat beside me, resting her head on my shoulder. "Mama, you're not embarrassed of us, right?" My voice broke before the words formed. "I am proud of you, both of you, always." Jonah trudged over, dripping wet, and collapsed against my side. "I like it here better," he whispered. "Nobody wants to push us out." I wrapped an arm around each of them, holding on a little too tightly. Then, this is where we'll be today. They leaned into me without speaking, and in that quiet, a resolve I had ignored for years finally settled into something solid, something sharp. My mother's voice had always been loud, but today, she had made it unforgivable. That night, after the kids were asleep, I sat in my small home office with the door closed. The lamp cast a soft circle of light across my desk, and for a long moment I just stared at the drawer I rarely opened. My hand hesitated before pulling it open. Inside lay the folder I had built piece by piece over the last 6 years' documents I kept not to hide a secret, but to protect a piece my mother never bothered to give me. I lifted the first deed, 512 Magnolia Shore Lane, the house my mother had just thrown my children out of. Maisie's voice echoed faintly in my memory. "Mama," she said, "we don't belong here." I exhaled sharply and laid the paper flat on the desk. When I bought that beach house, I used part of the settlement from the app I helped build years ago. Back then, my mother had dismissed my work entirely. Computer jobs are temporary. Rowan, you need real stability. She had said, something respectable, something steady enough to raise children. Steady enough? As if writing code and selling a product for $200,000 was unstable. As if staying in a marriage where I was slowly disappearing would have been the respectable choice. I picked up another document: lease agreements, payment history, renewal notices. My mother had been renting the house for 2 years at $2,300 a month, well below the market rate along Magnolia Shore. She never questioned why it was so cheap. She never asked how it came to be available. She never asked anything about my life after the divorce, except how much it inconvenienced hers. Behind the deeds sat bank statements, neatly filed, 3 rental properties total. Enough monthly income to cover our modest home, the kids' school, and savings I guarded carefully. I lived simply because I wanted my children to feel safe, not because I lacked means. I heard a floorboard creak in the hallway. Jonah's small voice followed, groggy and confused. "Mama, are you still awake?" "Come here, sweetheart," I said softly. He patted in, rubbing his eyes, and climbed into my lap. When he saw the papers, he frowned. "What is all that?" "Just things I need to take care of," I said. He leaned against me, warm and trusting. "Are you sad, I'm thinking?" I whispered. He wrapped his arms around my middle. "Grandma hurt Maisie. And you. I do not like that." "I know, baby." His voice dropped to a sleepy whisper. "She should not get to be mean in a house that is not even hers." I froze. My son did not understand ownership, not fully. But he understood truth. He understood what my mother never had. I kissed the top of his head and closed the folder. "No," I murmured. "She should not." On Monday morning, after dropping the kids at school, I sat in my car with the engine off and my phone in my hand. My thumb hovered over the contact for Lydia Cortez, the property manager I trusted more than most people in my family. I pressed call. She picked up on the second ring. "Rowan, everything all right? I need to terminate a lease," I said, steady but cold. 512 Magnolia Shore Lane. 60 days. Lydia was silent for a moment. "That is your mother's place." "I know. Are you sure you want to do this?" "Yes," I said. "Send the notice today." There was no hesitation in her voice when she answered. "I will take care of it." By Wednesday afternoon, my phone buzzed non-stop. I ignored it until the 5th call in a row made the screen pulse with my mother's name. I let it ring twice before answering. Her voice exploded through the speaker. "Explain this to me right now." "Rowan, I received a notice that my lease is not being renewed. There must be some mistake. It is correct." I said. "I pay every month on time." She snapped. "I take better care of that house than anyone else would." "I am sure you do." "Then talk to the owner," she ordered. "Tell them this is a misunderstanding." My grip tightened. I cannot do that. You cannot, or you will not. Both, I said. There was a beat of silence. I could hear birds outside her window. The ones she always bragged made Magnolia Shore feel exclusive. This is because of Saturday, she hissed. You complained to your landlord after embarrassing yourself. I did not complain to anyone. She inhaled sharply, furious. Then why is this happening? You will figure it out, I said, and ended the call. 2 minutes later, Savannah called. Rowan, what did you do? She demanded. Mama is a wreck. She says she has 60 days to leave and everything near the shore is booked for summer. That is not my problem. She made one mistake. Savannah insisted. You do not need to destroy her whole summer. She did not make a mistake. I said. She humiliated my children on purpose. Savannah's tone sharpened. She was trying to set boundaries. And now I am setting mine. She exhaled in frustration. You really are going through with this. I am. She hung up without another word. A voicemail from Colt waited next. Rowan, this is petty. You are making things harder than they need to be. Just fix it. I deleted it. That afternoon, I picked up Maisie and Jonah from school and drove them straight to the public beach. As soon as their feet hit the sand, something inside them loosened. Jonah kicked off his shoes and charged toward the water. Maisie followed, laughing as he splashed her. For the first time in days, they looked like children again, not targets, not burdens, just kids who wanted to swim. Maisie waved at me from the shoreline. Mama, come see the water is warm today. I walked toward them slowly, letting the wind press against my face. Jonah grabbed my hand when I reached them. I like this beach better, he said. Nobody looks at us strange. Maisie nodded. We belong here. I squeezed their hands. Yes, I said quietly. You do. They ran back into the waves, and I watched them, my children, the only people I refused to fail, behind us, somewhere inland. My phone kept buzzing with calls I would not answer. 60 days had begun, but it was not a countdown for my mother. It was a line I should have drawn years ago. By the end of week 2, the calls had slowed, but the silence that replaced them was worse. It felt strategic, the kind of quiet my mother used when she was preparing her next move. That move arrived in a white envelope taped to my front door. I found it after school pickup. Maisie and Jonah were already inside arguing lightly over snacks when I opened the envelope and unfolded the notice. A formal letter from the Baldwin County Housing Division. A complaint had been filed against me for wrongful lease termination. Maisie's voice floated from the kitchen. Mama, what is that? I slid the letter behind my back. Just mail, sweetheart. Go finish your crackers. She nodded but watched me for a beat longer, sensing the shift. When the kids settled, I stepped into my office and called the number listed on the document. A woman answered, her tone bored, efficient. Housing Division. This is Carol. This is Rowan Hartley. I said. I received a notice about a complaint. I heard pages flipping. Yes, here it is. Filed by a Ms. Darlene Hartley. Claims the non-renewal of her lease was retaliatory in nature. I closed my eyes. Of course she did. There will be a hearing. Carol continued. You may attend, submit documentation, or send representation. I will be there. After hanging up, I dropped into my chair, anger and exhaustion humming together beneath my skin. My mother had not just escalated, she had dragged a government office into it. Over a beach house she did not own. Over her pride. A soft knock sounded at the door. Jonah peeked in. Mama, are you mad? His small face made something inside me crack. Not at you, I said gently. Come here. He climbed into my lap, nestling against me the way he had when he was younger. Grandma is still mad about the pool, he whispered. I rested my chin on his hair. She is angry about many things. But that does not mean we have to be... He hesitated. Are we in trouble? No, I said firmly. We are not. Maisie appeared in the doorway next, clutching her sketchbook. I heard you talking. Is Grandma trying to do something again? Her voice carried that careful, older-than-her-years tone I wished she never had to learn. I motioned her closer. Your grandmother filed a complaint about the house. That is all. Maisie frowned. But it is your house. I know. Why would she do that? I hesitated not because I did not know, but because I did not want to teach them bitterness. Some people fight hardest when they feel their pride is hurt. Jonah lifted his head. Will she stop? I smoothed his hair. I do not know. Maisie sat beside me, leaning her shoulder against mine. We will be okay. Mama. Her steadiness startled me. My daughter, trying to reassure me. My son, waiting for my strength. I wrapped an arm around each of them. We will be, I said quietly. And for the first time in a long time, I meant it. The Baldwin County hearing room was smaller than I expected. Just a few chairs, a long wooden table, and a raised desk where the officer would sit. I arrived early, wanting a moment to breathe before everything unfolded. I was stacking my documents when the door opened sharply. My mother stepped in, followed by a tall man in a navy suit. Her gaze landed on me, confusion tightening her mouth. What are you doing here? She demanded. I am attending my hearing, I said evenly. She frowned, glancing at the man beside her. This is my attorney, Ron Bishop. Why are you sitting at that table? That is for the respondent. I slid a folder toward me and held her eyes. I am the respondent. Her face shifted the first crack in her composure. That makes no sense. You are only the daughter of the tenant. Before I could speak, the hearing officer entered. A woman in her late 50s, gray-streaked hair, and a controlled presence that quieted the room instantly. Good morning. I am Officer Ellen Whitford. She sat, opened her file, and looked up. Ms. Darlene Hartley and Ms. Rowan Hartley, correct? My mother nodded automatically. Still staring at me, Officer Whitford continued. This hearing concerns the non-renewal of the lease at 512 Magnolia Shore Lane. She turned a page. The owner of that property is listed as Ms. Rowan Hartley. Silence slammed down like a door. My mother's voice cracked on the words. That cannot be right. Officer Whitford tapped the document. Deed recorded 2 years ago. Monthly lease managed by Coastal Haven Property Group. Payments documented and verified. My mother turned to her attorney, whispering harshly. Ron, what is she talking about? But Ron looked at the file with dawning comprehension. The property history is clear. Ms. Hartley, your daughter owns the house. My mother's lips trembled. Rowan, you own Magnolia Shore. Yes, I said. All this time, she whispered, I did not soften. Yes. She sank into her chair, stunned. It would have been easier to look away, but I held my ground. Officer Whitford adjusted her glasses. Ms. Darlene Hartley, your complaint states the landlord retaliated against you after a personal disagreement. That is correct, my mother said quickly. I hosted a private event and exercised my right to limit attendance, and shortly after, my lease was terminated. Officer Whitford looked at me. Your response. I slid another folder forward. I have documentation. She nodded. Proceed. I handed her printouts photographs of Maisie and Jonah in their swimsuits, time-stamped an hour before the party. Text messages from 3 guests who witnessed the confrontation. Copies of the discounted rent rate, $2,300 a month compared to the market average of $3,800. My mother did not simply limit attendance. I said. She told my children they did not belong. She humiliated them publicly. I am not obligated to continue renting to someone who treats my family cruelly. My mother's voice rose, brittle and desperate. I was trying to maintain order. I needed the event to be respectable. Officer Whitford raised a hand. This is a housing matter, not a social one. Ron leaned toward my mother. You cannot argue morality here. The law will not support it. My mother's breathing quickened. I did not know the house was hers, she whispered. I finally looked at her fully. That was intentional. I wanted you to enjoy the place without feeling beholden. She blinked rapidly, the edges of her pride fraying. You let me think strangers were doing me a kindness. You never asked, I said quietly. Officer Whitford closed the file. The non-renewal of a month-to-month lease is legal. There is no evidence of discrimination. The complaint is dismissed. A final, echoing silence filled the room. My mother stood slowly, gripping the edge of the table. Rowan, I have nowhere else near the shore to go. That is not something I can fix, I said. Her voice cracked. You would really do this to your own mother. I gathered my papers. You did it first. She flinched, not from volume, but from truth. And for the first time in my life, I walked past her without looking back. My mother moved out on day 59. Lydia texted me a single line that morning keys are turned in. I stared at the message longer than necessary. There was no triumph in it, just a quiet finality that felt heavier than I expected. That afternoon, Savannah called. I answered only because the kids were busy in the living room and I did not want her leaving another voicemail they might overhear. You really let her lose the house, she said, skipping any greeting. She did not lose it. I replied. She moved out at the end of her lease. You know she cannot afford anything near the shore now. Savannah snapped. She is in a 2-bedroom duplex in Foley. She is miserable. I kept my voice steady. She will adjust. Savannah scoffed. You act like you are some victim, but you blindsided her. You humiliated her. I felt my jaw tighten. She humiliated my children first, in front of 40 people. Savannah hesitated. She was stressed. You know how she gets. Yes, I said softly. I know exactly how she gets. Savannah went quiet, then exhaled sharply. Well, do not expect me to take sides. You already did, I said. A long time ago. I hung up before she could answer. That weekend, I took Maisie and Jonah to Magnolia Shore. The house felt strange without my mother's things cleaner, calmer. Maisie wandered into the living room and touched the empty built-in shelf. She really moved out, she whispered. Yes, I said. Jonah tugged my sleeve. Can we go to the pool now? I nodded. Go on. I will be right behind you. They ran outside, their laughter rising through the open door. For the first time since the party, the sound felt free. I stepped into the sunlight, listening to them splash, and held on to the simple truth settling quietly inside me. Some homes reopen only when the wrong people finally leave. It was Christmas Eve when the knock came 3 soft taps, hesitant enough to make me pause halfway down the hallway. Maisie and Jonah were in the living room sorting ornaments when I opened the door. My mother stood on the porch, wrapped in a coat I had never seen her wear. Her eyes were tired, the sharpness gone. Rowan, she said quietly. I need a moment. I stepped aside without speaking. She entered slowly, as if uncertain she belonged. Maisie saw her first. She straightened, clutching a red ornament. Grandma. My mother's voice wavered. Hello, sweetheart. Jonah edged closer to me, unsure. My mother knelt, an action so unfamiliar it stole the breath from the room. I came to say something I should have said months ago. Maisie's brows lifted, waiting. I was wrong, my mother whispered. You are good children. You did not deserve what I said at Magnolia Shore. I let my pride make me cruel. Jonah stepped forward a little. You made Maisie cry. My mother nodded, eyes shining. I know, and I am sorry. Truly. Maisie glanced at me. I gave a small nod. She walked to my mother and placed the ornament gently in her hand. It hurt. But, thank you for saying sorry. Jonah moved beside her, leaning carefully into the hug she offered. My mother's shoulders shook as she held them, and for the first time in a long while, nothing inside me resisted the softness of the moment. When spring returned to Magnolia Shore, I took Maisie and Jonah back to the beach house. The air felt different now, lighter, as if the walls themselves were relieved. Jonah ran ahead toward the pool. "Mama, the water looks perfect." Maisie slipped her hand into mine. "Do you think Grandma will come here again one day if she chooses to?" I said, "But only if she treats you the way you deserve." Maisie nodded, satisfied. "Then she has to stay kind." "She does," I agreed. We walked inside together. I had rented the house to new tenants over the winter, people who appreciated it without using it as a stage. The income went straight into the kids' college accounts, slow and steady. But today, the house was ours again. Jonah called from outside. "Mama, come look." They were both knee-deep in the pool, laughing as they splashed each other. I stepped onto the patio, feeling the warmth settle across my shoulders. Maisie looked up. "We belong here now." "Right," I crouched beside them. "You belong anywhere. Love is louder than judgment." Their smiles widened, bright and uncomplicated. "And if you are listening to our story," I said softly, "I hope you choose the places and the people who make you feel that way too." The sunlight shimmered across the water, and my children's laughter rose into the air, clear, certain, and entirely ours.